Hello, I'm Tom Davis, and welcome to the latest in TRF's series of podcasts concentrating on the British and Irish Lions tour of Australia this summer. With me on the sidelines today are Robert Rudge, Killian Breen, and Iain Miles, who will be picking their way through Saturday's tour opener with the Barbarians, looking forward to the first game on Aussie soil on Wednesday, and deciding just how many Welsh players we can fit into the team for the first test. And we're going to jump straight into it with Rob. The day finally arrived on Saturday, June the 1st, albeit in Hong Kong, not Australia. A lot was made pre-match at the location, with concerns put on conditions of the players, fitness and general welfare, but those are comfortable in the end, and not too much stress, seemingly. Robert?
I thought it was quite a good performance. I know the press and a few people have been quite scathing of the game. But, the first game up to win 59-8 against, on paper, a decent Barbarians side and in those type of conditions is a very, very good win. Could have been a lot worse. You compare it to what happened on the last tour of South Africa against that Royal 15. Against the Barbars, the Lions scored more points and played better. And a lot of positive showings from a lot of players. I think that, the one guy who would turn around and think at the end of that game, I might have hurt my chances a little bit, was probably Farrell. Didn't have the greatest of games at times. I don't think he was helped really by the half-backs. They didn't pass the ball very well.
I was just stunned that I watched the game and then you go straight to kind of social media and everything, and I was just absolutely stunned as people claiming it was a bad game or it was just a bad performance. It's just, I was absolutely stunned by that, because no way can you consider a 59-8 win, no matter who it's against, and no matter where you play it, that is not a bad game. You don't score nearly 60 points playing badly, unless you're playing the under-7s. It's just, I was just stunned by that. And the conditions as well. I mean, for most of you can't imagine running around in 94% humidity, best part of 30-degree heat. It would have been a great kind of workout. Whether they didn't know at the time, but they'll have a lot of benefit for that going forward, with that run out in those conditions, make them a lot fitter.
I think a lot of the thing that people were saying is it was a poor match, or I think it's from a sort of a lack of intensity from maybe the opposition at times as well. Although there was a lot of points scored, there was a good bit of competition, but it seemed like it was, I don't know, a bit of a dead rubber when it should have been a far better spectacle for the game of rugby as opposed to what it ended out like.
I think the Lions have done their homework throughout this game, you see, and that's why they hit the Barbars very unexpected. They played obviously the game that the Wales play, and that's how I see the Barbars going to play throughout the whole of this. The Lions are going to play throughout the whole of this tour. Is the Welsh game. It makes sense not to. With some people, but with Gatlin there and half the Welsh coaching staff, that's the game they're going to play. And I think towards the end, the Barbarians could not cope with the physicality. He was sending the big boys down the channel. You had Roberts first up hitting those, the 10-12 channel up and getting over the gain line consistently. Then when they had enough of Roberts, you had Davis coming through and doing the same thing. Then you had the wingers. It was a big thing.
Yeah, you mentioned the centres. Who in particular stood out for you?
I think both centres had Davis and Roberts. They both had a very good game. Both offered something very different. In the past I've been very scathing of Davis and his passing and his ability to pass and his touches, but it obviously seemed he's been working on it, because there was a couple of times he put some nice passes in, and there was one in particular where he took a pass, man and ball, but he took the step away and he gave the pass off, I think, to the winger. And the winger went down the line. It was just those little touches. Yeah,
it was all in one sweep and motion. Right? It was Henson-esque, dare I say?
Henson-esque, indeed. And then, of course, you had Roberts, who for a while, he's been all right for Wales. But I think he started, creating those little angles, and the passing came off foul, and he was able to, come inside and attack that channel, the inside channel, a bit more. And of course, he gave a nice couple of offloads, tackled well. So he did a good job.
Jim Roberts seems to be one of these players who has all the skill set, but he flatters to deceive throughout the majority of the season, but he does have the knack of showing up in the big games, like the Lions tour 4 years ago, and more recently against England in the Six Nations, and then, I guess he's timed his form perfectly again.
Yeah, and I think what struck me is that I think that's the best game I've seen Davis play. I think probably in international rugby. He looked so comfortable. He looked full of confidence, and he removed his head guard. Maybe he should do that more often. He takes head guard off and he plays an absolute blinder. I think a lot of people are saying there was this Roberts throughout the last couple of seasons, but if he's going to play like that, I'm damn happy to see him play like that.
As well as that, when we're talking about what's his name, Roberts there as well. I think that it's one thing there. The Lions really tends to bring out the best in players. Like, you remember seeing Driscoll and Roberts on flying form in 2009, and it sort of begs the question: do you think you'll get that same sort of intensity and skill out of the players, especially when for a few years in between? Roberts for me, I went quite a bit off the radar since that Lions tour.
Yeah, I think he had his studies as well, which I think would have helped him as well. I think that would have taken some of his focus on. Now that's done, he can put 100% effort of playing rugby. And in 2009, he was just comfortable with who he's playing with. I think that's also key. He plays better when he's got somebody he's confident in outside him, which I think that's what Davis did Saturday, and I think that's what Driscoll was in 2009. Whether the other centres like Tuilagi have that kind of connection with him remains to be seen. I hope they do, but that's always been, I think, key to Ross, is if he's got someone with him that he's comfortable with, he plays well.
Yeah, that's why I think the Bod-Roberts combo would be probably the better bet, because I do think Bod will read Roberts better and will be able to run off him, and that's how I personally feel. But of course, I'd like to see Tuilagi as well with Roberts, just purely because you'd have, again, same thing with Davis, you'd have two guys who just hammer it down the Australian Channel there. So, it'd be interesting to see what Gatland does, for the come test time.
Definitely.
Can we see a lot of these combos being put up in the first test, or can you see some other players like in the back row or in the centres pushing for a stake?
I think Wednesday's going to be big. I think we've had kind of one partnership in the centre, and now we have to see how Driscoll and Tuilagi are going. I mean, they're probably the archetypal 12-13 combo. You got the 12, the strong guy who's going to take first face ball, smash over the gain line. And you got Driscoll that's got the outside run, he's got the inside dart, he's got the loop around. So that's kind of your archetypal 12-13 combo. So Wednesday's going to be a big one. I think if Wednesday they have a good game, I wouldn't be too surprised to see Tuilagi and Driscoll start the test.
Are we in a position already where it's going to be either or? Is it going to be Roberts and Davis, or Tuilagi and Driscoll?
That's how I see it. I don't think Gatland's going to take Jamie Roberts out personally, because he knows he's such a defensive leader, and he'll get you over that crash ball. And if you look at it, teams tend to mark him out of the game. Now, if Roberts can take 2 or 3 out, and got a couple of guys up his backside who cycle that ball quickly, his quick ball on again, you see, and that was what was happening with the Barbarians, towards the, when the Barbars were getting tired and Roberts was still on the pitch, even, during the game, he was taking 2 or 3 men out, creating that overlap for the quick ball to come. So, I don't see Gatland dropping Roberts. So, it's the other 3, in my opinion, will be battling for that, the other shirt.
Interesting. Although the Welsh players were hugely celebrated on Saturday. I mean, there were 7 of the 8 tries were from Welshmen. Killian is our resident Irishman. We were impressed by Conor Murray's cameo at scrum half.
I actually didn't see that. I fell asleep for the second half of the game. But
nice.
Like Murray's, he does tend to blow in and out of the matches. Like, one day he's the world's best, and then the next week you can have an absolute shocker, slow ball off the base constantly. But then when you've got a man like Phillips there who I really thought he ran the show very well, bar maybe one or two dodgy passes at times. Like, he was immense. Both defensively and offensively, he was fantastic.
Do you know what? I'm still not a fan of Conor Murray. I'm not sold on him 110%, but then again, neither am I sold on Phillips. but you know, that's the thing. You know, I think their service really needs some work, both of them. They're just too slow, in my opinion. And
you say that about Phillips, and Killian said about a couple of dodgy passes. I watched a rerun of the game this morning, and the passes that didn't go to Farrell were Farrell's fault. The pass was anticipating a fly-off, running flat onto it.
So it's as much getting the links and the connection between the units as anything else, is what you're saying.
It's a lot to do with communication. Speaking of Farrell, guys, what do we make of his somewhat flaky performance?
I wanted him to do well. I really did, because I was one. Even when we were saying who will go, I kind of wanted Farrell to go, and I was just disappointed at how he just got flustered. That early 5 minutes, you got the sense of he's rattled, and I'm not sure it was the occasion or the conditions or who he was up against. But something, getting clocked on the side of the head by his teammate, his club teammate. I'm not sure what it was, but he just looked rattled from the start and never really recovered. He was decent with his kicking, which is fair enough, but in all other aspects of the game, he just looked almost a half step behind everybody else on the pitch. And when you everyone else who's playing kind of so well, that stood out like a sore thumb, especially for playing fly-off as well. I wanted him to do well. Of course, he didn't, but I still think he's good enough to be playing in Ryan's team. No issues with that at all.
Yeah, I think that's why Gatland knows he's flaky. And I think that's why he's only gone with 2 fly-offs, and in the hope that Farrell just clicks. And there's some part of him on Saturday, where things did click for him, and of course some stuff did. And I think give him more time, and another week together, these little issues that we saw Saturday will iron out.
There is the looming presence of one Johnny Wilkinson, however, has been over the last month or so.
King Johnny!
Yes. I was come out in the media this morning and said that he wouldn't be averse to a phone call off Warren Gatland. There's been plenty spoken about him. What do we make of the idea of him jetting out to Australia to join up with the squad?
Well, I think we all know my thoughts on the issue. I've been slightly vocal in the past about it. I mean, the way that kind of sounds to me is that he didn't want the phone call when Toulon were in the kind of French playoffs. Now they're not. He suddenly wants to go. It's just a bit convenient. I mean, yeah, he's got massive experience. I'm still don't want him to go, but if he does, I've changed my mind. I won't throw him toys out of the pram. I'll get behind him, but I'd rather him not go in the first place. But
for me, I think it's one of these things, I think he's a guy, Gatland shouldn't overlook. I know he's turned it down, and I think, he's quite an honest guy, is Johnny, and if his body wasn't right, and obviously it is now, then taking him out there, yeah, okay, he probably won't start on a test, possibly, but if something does go wrong now, one of them does go down, at least he's around the camp and knows, and has had time to settle in and is ready to go. And unless, say next week now, maybe Wednesday, do next Wednesday's game, one of the fly-offs goes down and that's it, yeah? You're left then with Hogg, who's untested at 10 for Lions, and one of the other ones. I do generally believe you need 3 fly-offs.
I'll tell you now, when you look at Wilkinson, you see a man, he's been there, he's done it all. He's one of the most experienced players going. He's consistent, he keeps his head, and he's never a liability. And then when you look at the way Farrell sometimes is playing, and especially the way he played in the Barbarians game, which one would you rather, say, if Sexton were to be the starting test number 10, which one would you rather come on with 20 minutes left to seal off a game, maybe to win the series even?
Yeah, I mean, now I kind of hear people going about that. I can't not agree with it. It's everything you guys think. I'll make perfect sense in my rugby brain. Is that that's what I want. You want someone who's got that experience. It's probably just personal now, but Yeah, I think it'll have to be an injury. I can't see. What I wouldn't like is another position, like another back, like potentially the whole Carney thing. People are mentioning him going as a replacement of that. That I don't agree with. That I would get a strop over. But if there was an injury to attend, then yeah, take him. The more it goes on, I can't not agree with the whole. Yeah, well, he should talk really.
That's settled then. John Wilson is to join up with the Lions, as spoken for by TRF. Thank you, Iain.
Yeah,
we're going to move on now to Wednesday's game in Perth with the Western Force. It's a completely different 15, Warren Gatland's name. Let us run through it quickly. We've got half-penny at full-back, wings of Bowen North, the centres of Driscoll and Tuolangi, Sexton and Conor Murray at half-back, front row Healy, Best and Cole, Alwyn Jones and Ian Evans in the second row, with the back row being made up of by Tom Croft, Sean O'Brien and Jamie Heaslip. What do we make of that panel?
Plenty of Irish.
Yes, 9 in fact.
Fantastic. Sean's playing anyway. He seems to have gotten over the injury that they are scared about for a long time. They're saying he'd only make it for the tests, which point probably too late for him anyway. So I'm thrilled with that piece of news.
I think Gatland's gone back to this thing of having players who know each other on the pitch. You look at it. You've got at the front row. You've got Healy and Best there. You got Sean O'Brien and Heaslip at the back. All four know how to play. You got Wyn Jones and Evans in the boiler room. Again, know how to play with each other. You got Sexton and Murray at the half-backs. You've got players at key places there. And I think that's how Gatland's going to look at it. He's going to look at these pairings that, for the first couple of weeks, are very familiar. And you can see in the teams already, like you look at the game against the Barbarians, he picked a very Welsh side because he knew that they'd do a job for him, type of thing. Whether that's right or wrong, it's another matter.
What do you, like, if you see this sort of policy where he keeps players play together either provincially or nationally together, do you think that when it comes to the tests where you're likely to try get your best 15 out on any given day, like your best 15 players in each position, do you think that the lack of game time in with other players that they might have played as much with will affect the performance in the test matches?
But if that's the case, I don't think Gatland's going to go with that. But I think he's only doing that for the first couple of games, I reckon. Against the Reds, you might see a total different side on that Saturday.
Yeah.
And probably the future weeks. But I think for the first couple of games, that's how he's bedding in the side. I have no doubt. I have no doubt that he'll change the combos around it at some point. So you might well see, the Keane Healy, Rory Best, and Adam Jones here up front. Or
yes,
you might see the Bods and I said Roberts centre combo. With maybe Maitland and North on the wings. I don't know. You might see the Ben Youngs, Johnny Sexton half-back pairing. You just don't know what he's going to do. Do you get me? I just think he's giving everyone a chance to put the name forward in the first couple of games, and then from there on he'll move on.
We're not going to get to a stage where we're going to get to test players and some of the guys haven't played together, considering that there's 5 games with all test match, including Wednesday. There's only sort of a finite combination you can make, so that the test players will have played together in 1, 2, possibly even 3 games before the test, so I don't think there's any danger of lack of chemistry. And the amount of training they do on, so they'd try these things out in training anyway, even if they don't on the pitch, so there's no danger of lack of chemistry come test match time.
Well, who do we think, or what groups of players, like the back row and the front row, need to have the big game on Wednesday? I mean, Healy and Best, in Dan Cole as well, the back row of Croft, O'Brien, he's looking gel, and are we seeing the Lions back 3 as well?
Do you know what? I think Rory Best has got nothing to prove, to be honest. In my honest opinion, he's gone out there now. He's just got to relax and play his natural game, and he'll come to the fore. Because as I said before, I'm very surprised that he didn't make the initial squad as part of the 3 hookers. I'm very surprised that Mr. Hartley did get in front of him, and in my opinion, justice has been served because he's now on the tour. And Gatlin is giving him a chance to start now, and as I said, to give himself a chance to show why Gatlin should have picked him in the first place. You know, where I'm quite intrigued with how the squad could play out is where you fit in Healy and Vinopola and Jenkins. You know, I still believe you start with Jenkins at one to start off with and say, right, you've got 40 to 50 minutes to actually hammer yourself on the pitch, and then you bring on the likes of Healy or Vinopola just to run and really make those massive inroads, because that's why I felt where Healy was very impressive when he came off the bench against the Barbarians. He was just so impressive at just carrying, and you could just see he was just making out yards, and you could just see the Barbarians players go, please, don't run at me anymore.
Yeah, I think if you're going to use an impact player off the bench in that position, it's going to have to be Cian Healy, isn't it? Because he's just a much more developed and rounded player than Vinopola, who's still 21. He's still very raw. He's obviously a great talent, but if you're gonna need someone to carry the ball destructively for the last 20 minutes, Cian Healy's your man, because he's also a superior scrummager as well, surely.
Well, yeah, that's it. Vinopola still thinks he's a 10. How many times?
So does Gethin Jenkins, so.
Yeah, but I mean, you looked on Saturday. How many times did Vinopola stand in that 10 channel, or as first receiver, and took the ball and gave some awful passes? I mean, you say Gethin does it at times, but Gethin then, I would throw to dummy, goes in and sets the rucker. He doesn't try and think, he can do everything that, a 10 can type of thing. I know he can charge down O'Gara and score, but, that's another matter.
I think with the tight that you got is that with Vunipola, and I watched him for a season playing for Bristol, he's a very dynamic runner. He's got the impact. He can run through pretty much anybody going. But yeah, he did find himself where he shouldn't have been a few too often. I mean, I wouldn't mind if he took the ball and ran every time and gained 5 yards, but fortunately he didn't every single time. But yeah, I'd go with Jenkins to start. He's a solid all-round player, and he's come on last half an hour and just cause absolute chaos.
And
I think that's the best role for him.
It's not a slight on Healy either. That's
no, definitely not.
That needs to be made, quite clear. It's not that I don't rate Healy. I just think where Healy will be best served is coming off that bench and making that impact. And I think, I don't think Gethin could do that job that Healy could be as destructive off the bench.
Killian, are you going to stick up for your countryman and make a case for him to start the tests?
I actually quite agree with the lads. Personally, I think I would prefer Healy starting as well. I would like him starting, but I definitely see the merit in him coming off the bench and absolutely tearing the place up, because he does it exceptionally well. He's a destructive ball carrier, very strong in defence, and he's solid in the scrum. And if you want to get the most out of your players, like say in the last 20 minutes, if he'd started the whole game, he wouldn't be making that same impact at all. And Gethin wouldn't really bring the same impact he would coming off. So I think it'd be best. It's not like Gethin's a slouch in the loose. I remember last Lions tour, he hunted down what's his name, Habana down the wing, and he can move, he can scrum, he's every, to be honest, it's a flip of a coin for me, really. I wouldn't think Healy would feel hard done by either not starting the test when he is so valuable coming off the bench.
Fair enough.
I wouldn't be too surprised if that's how it settled in the end. Just it's simply a flip of the coin, rock paper scissors. It could be it's that close between the two guys.
Oh well, so TRF panel here's plumped in for Gethin Jenkins with a loose head. Moving back to an earlier point and shifting to the backs. Are we seeing in Halfpenny at fullback, Bow and North on the wings, the Lions back three?
Yes. It's as simple as that. I think Halfpenny's your fullback. He's the most. You'll see how he does in his 6 A's performances. He's got no fear. He's got the most solid boot going, and he can attack. That's what a lot of people can tend to miss and almost ignore. Is that he's got an attacking streak on him as well. He started off as a winger, so yeah, he's got the speed. But yeah, he's got to be the fullback. I think Tommy Moe and Jordan North, they upset themselves very nicely. You got George that's obviously a bit more kind of straightforward, physical. But Tommy Moe is probably the best finisher in the entire squad of tries. He gets half a chance, and 9 times out of 10 he'll score it. So yeah, I think this is the test match back 3. And I'll be delighted if that happens.
Is anyone else getting fed up of how much Stuart Hogg has been picked up? Is this guy actually that good, or am I just...
Yes, he's fantastic. I love him.
What has he done?
He's a very good player. He's very good.
Exceptionally fast. His footwork's incredible. He can move the ball. I think he's a very, very exciting player to watch. And beyond the sort of like the merits of being able to see him play really well and this sort of exciting brand of rugby, he's still solid. He still does his job to a very, very good degree at fullback. But he has that electricity.
I see Hogg as that man, as the number 23, to be honest, the guy who will fill in, once you have your half-backs and on the bench, you need that guy to be the utility man. And I think Hogg, as that utility man to come off the bench, would be a very, very big asset to the Lions, because, he can cover from, I know he's down the cover at 10, and, we don't know what he's like at 10 yet, but, I'm sure he'd do a decent job at centre, but, you'd be a very tidy guy to come off the bench to put on the wing. If, say, I don't think North is a nailed-on starter the way Cuthbert's playing, in my eyes, and I think Tommy Moe is a guy you can't afford not to have starting. So North is, for me, is the one who's got to really show Wednesday he's up for it, because Cuthbert, he played against a very poor Barbarians team, but he's already got 2 tries up already on the stakes. So North's going to do something pretty spectacular to get out of his shadow.
Yeah, I thought Cuthbert was excellent on Saturday. It was one of his best games on the international stage. I thought he was sound in defence, and he was always looking for it, and he was rewarded with 2 tries. But talking about Lions fullbacks, another one today with some bad news. Looks like Rob Carney might be out for the rest of the tour. He's suffered a grade 1 hamstring tear, and he's a serious doubt. It looks like he might be flying home. It's pretty bad news to the Irish fullback. Who do we think should or will replace him in the squad?
Johnny Wilkinson.
See, I think there's going to be, in my head, there's 3 guys that are going to crop up. I can see Mike Brown being one of the guys being mentioned, because for me, he's a very good fullback. And if you want to go for an out-and-out fullback replacement, you look at him. Then you'll have, as Killian said, Wilkinson's name will get banded about, because Hogg is obviously, they're happy with Hogg, and so they fit him in there. Or they might go for another utility man, and that could be James Hook. Because Gary does like Hook. So, if you believe everything that goes on Twitter, on some of the sources you tend to look at, then Gatlin has spoken to Hook, so, it's probably next man off the line could be his Hook.
What I find quite entertaining is that the English fans saying Brown and the Welsh fans saying Hook. It's at the end of the day, we're all tribal. I think Brown is, if you take the assumption, whichever fullback comes in, they're going to be a replacement. So you'd want someone's decent. So of the 2, Brown would be my choice. He's a better fullback than if you say Hook is the other one. He's a better fullback than Hook, and Hook is I don't know. He's not done much internationally lately. He's not been given the chance, you could argue. Hook would be the utility again. Hook would feel the need to have that extra fly half. So it'll either be Hook or Brown, I think, if Carney has to go. I can't see any other in the 15 being put in.
The problem with Mike Brown going is, as soon as he lands and sees Alex Cuthbert, he's going to mess his pants. But anyway, Killian, are you going to champion Iain Madigan for a spot?
I'm not sure. I think he's a good fullback. He's solid and he's fantastic on the ball as well. Would he be a line starting fullback or someone coming off the bench? You've got that with Madigan. You've got that sort of utility as well. He can play in most positions across the backs. 10, he's excellent. 12, he's very good, and fullback, he does a job. So he's an option there. But again, you've got a lot of lads with a lot of experience there. Hook in particular he's been playing for years. He's been there and he's done that. And I think he was a great shout of the jersey, especially with his experience at 10.
The thing with fullback, I think, it's one of those positions where we are we got the two levels. You've got the top players like Carney, like Halfpenny, and then you've got ones who are slightly under it. And so when you have to pick one of the ones that aren't as good, it's always more difficult. You're picking players that are fundamentally not as good as the ones you've had before. So it's difficult to split those three because they've each got flaws.
So that's a no to Lee Burner.
He's not played international rugby. I mean, it's the sort of thing Gatland might do, throw a curveball. He's been decent for Claremont, but internationally he's not been on the scene. That's Halfpenny's fault.
Imagine calling up a player who hasn't been playing internationally.
Gatland is a big admirer of Lee Byrne. I know, he's got Lee Halfpenny at full-back, but Byrne is a Gatland type player. He's a big boy, big lump. If you look at it, Halfpenny's the only guy who doesn't fit the Gatland mould in the Wales setter. So, as you said, he's played very well for Claremont this season. And I know he hasn't played international rugby. You look at that, you say Matt Stevens doesn't play international rugby anymore.
Yeah.
Wilkinson could be there soon. Doesn't play international rugby. Lee Byrne, if he's good enough, then you should select him. But as I said, I don't think, I think Mike Brown or James Hook are saying Hookie hasn't played much international rugby. So, I wouldn't be adverse to Iain Madigan going because I quite like him, to be honest.
Oh, well, there we have it, Lee. Sorry, mate, you just have to stick with playing for the best club side in the world. The Lions aren't the only side who are suffering from injuries, with Australia today receiving triple injury woe, with Digby Ioane, Scott Higginbotham and Sidleki Timani all withdrawing from the Wallabies 25-man training squad, joining Tatafu Portanau and George Smith on the sidelines. The injuries are beginning to mount for the Wallabies, and these are important players they are losing, guys.
Yeah, I think Ioane's the biggest loss out of all those. I don't watch much Super Rugby. When you do, you think Ioane, he's an absolute sod to tackle. He's just always moving. He's always pumping his legs and moving his arms. I think he would be the back line I'd be most scared of in attack. So I think they'd be quite glad to see him out for how long he might be out. But I think he's the dangerous one. And I think what's interesting to me is that they've not replaced him with an out-and-out winger. They've replaced him with a scrum half, with Phipps coming in. So that's an odd one to me. But I mean, they're all key, but I think Ioane is the biggest loss out of those three.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. Ioane, as you said, he breaks the line. He's so fast. He when his team play well, he plays well. He's fantastic. He's just really such a threat anytime he's the ball. He's solid enough on defence. He's just a damn good player.
Yeah, I can't disagree. Ioane is the probably nail-on starter. From those bunch of guys. Scott Higginbotham. Watching him play for the Rebels this year, he's been a bit hit and miss. He's not been particularly great. The Nick Phipps call-up is purely because they only made one scrum half in that squad. But I think who they'll miss the most is probably Portanau, a hooker. I think losing him a hooker is going to be the blow for that, because I don't think Moore's as good as him, personally.
No, I think, yeah, you're right there. George Smith as well would have been, nostalgia's sake, would have been class to see him lining up 12 years after he was there.
He'd have been the guy to replace Higginbotham if he'd have been fit.
Yeah, well, I think they're all, they're all going to be keenly felt. Digby Ioane, especially because for the Reds this season, he's been an absolute demon. Every time he gets the ball, he makes so many yards, and you cannot get him down. He's always making at least 15 yards every time. The other guys who were announced today, Higginbotham and Timani, for me, they were both pretty much nailed on starters. I think it'd be a bit harsh, Rob, with Higginbotham. I think he's had a pretty solid season. He started pretty poorly, but since for the last 6 weeks, maybe, I mean, he's just got the team together. They've made him captain, and the quality he showed the last 2 seasons playing for the Reds has come through and shone through again at the Rebels. The guys they brought in, like Nick Phipps, second string scrum half, Ben McCallum and Kane Douglas, just aren't as good, and that can only benefit the Lions.
Yeah, but with the Phipps in, that's more of a need because they've only got one scrum half. And I think they had at some point they were going to call in another one. And there's talks that Nick White now is on standby and is joining up the squad this weekend. So it's very interesting to see what happens there. But
yeah, that is interesting. Give him another goal kicking option because he's more Lee Halfpenny. Well, Halfpenny used to be anyway. They'd bring him in. They'd reel him up to slot the 60-metre penalties. So I guess that would give it another dimension. Whether they get him on the pitch with Gainer at 9 is another question. But as it is, it's looking tasty for the Lions. I'm sure they will be licking their lips. We're going to wrap it up today with the guys' predictions for the score and man of the match against the Western Force in Perth.
Okay, I go for score of 42-12, because I think the Force apparently going to put out a less than full strength side. That's what I've heard, yeah, they're going to put out their main Super Rugby squad. So I think 42-12. I think man of the match is probably going to be Johnny Sexton, because Stuart Williams is going to commentate, and he loves Sexton.
I'm going for a 32-20 victory to the Lions, and Brian O'Driscoll to be man of the match.
I'm going to go 44-17 for the Lions, and Sean O'Brien man of the match.
And I'm going to push the boat out. I'm going to say the Lions will decimate them 65-17. And the man of the match will be Tom Croft. Well, that's it. The final whistle has gone today, meaning time is up on today's podcast. My thanks to Rob, Iain and Killian for their expert analysis. Stay tuned later in the week for the next Outline series. But if you can't wait until then, hop over to the rugbyforum.com, which has more news, gossip and rugby banter than Dylan Hartley's eBay account. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time. The music used in this podcast is taken from The Planet by Gustav Holst and recorded by the United States Air Force Heritage of America Band.